Hello, everybody. Thank you for clicking on this video. This is a video about spiraling time because time's not linear. No, it works in spirals, okay? There's cycles within cycles within cycles. In fact, if we just look at astrology, oh my gosh, we have the Saturn cycle, which is every 30 years. We have the moon cycle. The moon's gonna hit our natal moon every single month. The sun's gonna hit our natal birth chart degree every single year. Hello, it's our birthday. There's Jupiter cycles, there's Pluto cycles that are so long that countries have them more than people have them. And then there's also the nodes of the moon, and we all have a node of the moon in our own chart. And a lot of people wondering, okay, what's my purpose? Because they were going along doing just fine, and then all of a sudden they get confused, and more information comes in, and they're releasing things that aren't serving them, and they don't know why they're moving. They don't know why they're changing careers. They don't know why they're changing their romantic partners. That, everything's just like blows up, right? And yeah, that can be by design. So there's a lot of releases that we have, but it's important to know that in that cycle of all of those South Node releases and all of the Pluto's working on us to transform, that there are things that we're being set up for that we could not have possibly imagined could be our lives. And those are those North Node uh, moments of conjunction and realization that build. And when you see the pattern, when you're in your wisdom years like me, you can start to see the pattern. But even if you go through and you've got a few birthdays under your belt, maybe a couple of Jupiter returns that happen every 12 years, maybe you're like 36. That means you've been through three of these Jupiter cycles. So when you start really seeing, oh, I get it. Oh, I see what's going on. Then your life becomes more clear. There is more clarity. There is like, oh, that's what I've been doing this whole time. And when we see that's what I've been doing, it's a lot easier to have the courage to do more things that are stepping into very strange and unknown territory. Like, I never would have guessed that on January 28th of 2025, which is in a couple days if you're watching this video right after I post it, that there are amazing that I would be teaching a class on multidimensionality, which I hadn't even heard of, but certainly experienced a lot and was confused by, and nobody understood what was going on with me. Couldn't understand anything I was saying because I could not take my experiences in all these dimensions and talk about what I was experiencing in a way that people could understand who were very grounded in 3D. And that was one reason why I was friends with them because I wasn't. Okay. And learning to ground in 3D is very important. We're going to go through that in the class too, because it's really confusing until you do. And then once you are able to make a choice of what dimension you need to be in at the time, then it's all good. But I'm going to show you um, a recent um, a recent transit. We just had the North Node move from 0 degrees Aries, which is the beginning of the zodiac, to 29 degrees Pisces, which is the end of the zodiac. And my moon happens to be on that 29 degrees. It's some minutes apart from where the North Node is at this moment, but the North Node, the North Node hit my North Node in when I was doing something rather interesting. There's also a star Shiat that my moon is conjunct and that this North Node is conjunct right now. So this star is speaking from me, you know, and so is my moon. So is the last degree of Pisces. So is the North Node that's been in Pisces 4 times now during my lifetime. And now I'm seeing, thanks to, because I study with a brilliant astrologer, Bronwyn Simmons, I'm also looking at 4 times that um, the South Node was on Pisces, 29 degrees. And for me, this is huge. This might not be as huge for you, a huge of a transit. It's huge for the people with a North Node in Pisces, which is not what I have. So this is huge for you if that's you. It's also huge if this is happening on a planet or a point or a luminary, sun and moon or luminaries, that is the crux of your chart, what everything is pointing to that chart. So if you have a yod that is pointing to a particular planet in your chart, and that happens to be, whatever degree point that is, and the North Node is on it, that's going to be important to look at with an astrologer. I volunteer to be that just astrologer, but or you can pick any astrologer that you want. But here you've got so I have this yod pointing to my moon, and every single planet, you know, aspect, major angle, luminaries, all kinds of everything in my chart had an aspect to my moon. So my moon was heavily aspected. Okay, everything related to that moon. And it also, looking in the ninth harmonic, there's different layers and different harmonics within charts. And when looking in the ninth harmonic, there is a huge, huge grand trine that holds all of the rest of the planets and stars into a grand trine fire, a fire grand trine, which is inspiration and being a catalyst and an activator for other people. Yeah, I just recently realized that that's the effect that I have on other people when I take them through a meditation in my new moon ceremonies every month. So who knew? I mean, other people had to tell me that. I didn't know. So it's interesting that I'm going to go through in case this 29 degrees, if you have anything at the last degree of the zodiac, woo, here we go. And then if you have anything that all the other points in your chart are pointing to, or if you have a yod that's pointing to it, or if you have any chart patterns that are pointing to one particular planet, star, or luminary angle. This would be very interesting for you. So I'm going to share my screen because I love making little presentations in Canva. Woo-hoo. And so this is not going to work up there. I'm going to bring it down here, but it's not going to work down here. So I'm going to put it over here. No. Yes, here we go. Okay. Woohoo. Come on down. Here we go. All right. So in the Gospel of Thomas, okay, this is a gospel that didn't make it into the canon or the approved versions by the Roman hierarchy patriarchy to be in the Bible of all of the hundreds of works from the early days, people were writing down around 326 AD, where they had collections of all these things. People were writing down, all these people in different places who were carrying the message of what Jesus was saying and doing and who he was. And everybody had a different idea. And there were all these different things and different formats and different ways of expressing what people received. Um, and all of this was like this early Jesus movement before that whole thing was institutionalized by the Romans. So the Gospel of Thomas didn't make the cut. Luckily for us, we know of its existence because it was part of what was found in the Egyptian desert in 1945, along with many other texts, including the Gospel of Mary, which, if any of you are following, you know I teach classes on the Gospel of Mary. It's the Gospel of Mary helps us liberate from our stuck humanness and helps us integrate with our divinity. So we're both human and divine. We've got the both masculine energy or yin and yang energy. So we've got all of this on the horizontal plane and on the vertical plane. So one of the things in the Gospel of Thomas is verse 18. For in the place where the beginning is, there the end will be. Blessed is the one who takes a stand in the beginning, that one will know the end and will not experience death. So that's the Gospel of Thomas. So knowing where the beginning is, knowing where the Aries 0 point is very important, because when you know your beginningness, when you know your origin, then you know the end also. Okay. For instance, my galactic astrology mentor, Julia Balaz, has 0 degrees Aries, and she created a whole modality where we find our origin within the stars. So she understood beginnings. She understands our own, how to find our own personal beginningness, which leads us to understanding the genesis of humanity and the evolution of humanity on this planet. And this is the key to understanding the origin story of humanity. So galactic astrologers are working on some pretty heavy duty stuff. And when I first entered into this, my mind was blown, absolutely blown. But now it is just making so much sense the more I really look at my own chart and the chart of all my clients. So it's more than just my chart that's telling me this. It's people that have these other placements and seeing what they're doing in their lives. So these are the dates I'm going to be talking about, but I wanted to show you a little bit and let you know that I am not kidding when I said time is not linear. We've got all of this. Whoops. We've got all of this happening, and this is going on. Yeah, this is not good. We've got all of this going on. Alcyon is in the Pleiades, and it sends information to Earth in a spiral form. Okay, let me see if I can make this smaller so you guys can see it better. Okay, here we go. Okay, yeah, you guys get to see more of my desktop. Woo, lucky you. Okay, you don't need that. Okay, so Sedna is the farthest most dwarf planet that we've recognized that is in it's in the Kuiper belt. It's past Neptune. Okay. It's way past Pluto. Okay. All of these dwarf planets were discovered in like the year 2000 to like 2010. So there's just tons of these. And we realized that Pluto was acting much more like a dwarf planet than a regular planet. And so they were trying to define, well, what is Pluto? Is it even a planet? And they decided because its orbit is so elliptical that it was really behaving more like these dwarf planets than it was behaving like a planet. So Sedna's one of those, but Sedna's orbit, unlike Pluto, it's like 249 years to get around the zodiac. Sedna is so far out that it takes 11,400 years to go around. So humanity was in a very different place the last time Sedna was close in and moving fast around the zodiac. And Sedna right now is waking us up to our spiritual destiny, not just our personal spiritual destiny, but the destiny of humanity. So this information from Alcyon at 0 degrees Gemini is really helping us. In fact, it is there is this trine in air that is really helpful in understanding and putting pieces together of the understanding of human evolution and our spiraling nature of information that comes sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly. You can see here that the North Node makes it to 29 degrees Pisces every 18 years. That's kind of slow, but here we go. Um, and then sometimes if we're just looking at the spiral energy of, coming through, just like this golden spiral coming through with information, I did a whole trip to the star Sedna that's on this 29 degrees Pisces point right now. And that was experienced by some people as a stream of light and by others as a golden spiraling light. So that is very interesting. Shiat helps us open the crown chakra. So if you've never been able to perceive multidimensional beings like angels and star beings, then this is the time for you maybe to connect and get that, because we're going to be doing a meditation in that class I was talking about that I'm going to be teaching on the 28th of January this year. So the Grand Air Trine also has the supergalactic center at 2 degrees of Libra. And of course, if you follow astrology at all, you know that Pluto is at 1 degrees Aquarius. So Gemini, Libra, and Aquarius are all air signs, and they're forming a trine, and they're all really slow moving. All of the supergalactic center is a galactic point. It's a gravitational pull. So the Milky Way and Andromeda are attracted to each other, and together they're attracted to the supergalactic center, along with smaller galaxies that are just kind of traveling along with them in this gravitational pull to this center, um, the supergalactic center at 2 degrees Libra. And Mesmer saw that. Was a astronomer from the 1700s, and he was looking at all kinds of things, fuzzy things in the sky when he first got a telescope. So it is a point that has been observed for a while, this supergalactic center. Um, I think it's M87, but I could be wrong about that. So we can tune into this way of receiving energy looking at cycles. So this is what I was talking about, looking at the 18-year cycle of the North Node, okay? And I was able to connect these 4 time periods, okay? So let's say May of 1969, I was learning this and I was understanding on this level. Now, I was in sixth grade then, okay? So I wasn't exactly, I didn't have much life experience. And what I was mostly perceiving, I didn't really make much sense of, okay? Um, I knew I had a lot of dreams and visions as a child, but it didn't make any sense. I didn't know anybody that was having the same kind of visions I was. And I didn't know anybody that was even like, I'd walk into a church and I'd see angels on different people's shoulders. And I didn't know anybody that did that either. Now I hear about that. A lot of people have had that experience. It's quite common. Maybe you had that. One of my clients had a friend for years who was a dragon. And then the dragon one day told her, "Oh, okay, I'm not going to, hang out with you anymore. Bye-bye." And she completely forgot about that connection she had as a child until we were doing a dragon meditation in one of my new moon ceremonies. So interesting, interesting. That's all I'm going to say is it's interesting. So when I look at things that happened, when I was in the sixth grade, and then in 1987, I just posted a poem on this YouTube channel that I created in 1987 that came through. A dream came through, and then this poem came through in 1987. So that's interesting. So that's happening on the same spiral as this realization here. So what was this 1969 realization? Well, I had a brilliant, charismatic sixth grade teacher, and she would get up and talk, and I don't think anybody in the room understood anything that she said, but everybody knew that she was talking from a place of power and wisdom, and so we were all quiet and we all listened. And then she would end it with, "A word to the wise is sufficient." And I remember that, but didn't remember other things that she was saying. And we were doing an art project and she had collected everybody's project and she came and sat down next to me, which she never does. She was always standing in front of the room. And she wanted to make sure that I understood the directions for the art project because we were supposed to get three different colors of paper and loop them up and paste them to this little piece of cardboard. So I assured her that I understood the directions, and I was going to choose three different colors, I was going to choose red, orange, and yellow. But when I got to the paper strips, it just hit me. I got some guidance that said, no, just use orange and yellow. So that guidance sounded pretty clear to me. So I just picked up orange and yellow strips and went back and made this whole big, huge loopy thing that had all these, some of the loops were higher than others. It kind of looks like this, kind of actually looks like this. I put all this on here without realizing that the loopy thing does kind of look like a spiraling loop. Interesting. Okay. Another idea there. Okay. And then I was talking about 1987 and that poem, but also what was happening in 1987 is I had made a choice. I was trying to decide, do I want to follow this tarot thing and, just be a tarot reader and be a spiritualist and learn to channel and heal and all of that? Do I want to be a healer, a spiritual healer? So I was making a decision, and nobody was making any money doing that at that time. It wasn't a thing. I mean, now a lot of people have monetized that whole thing, but that just wasn't a career path back then. And I was more practical than that. So I wanted a career path. I wanted to teach drama in college. I ended up going and getting my degree in my master's degree, and I started out in the directing program, realized that was not for me, and I had to come to a decision quickly, because the next semester was going to start and I wanted to know what I was going to do because I still wanted to teach and I was not going to be able to teach without that degree. So I when it was night and I laid down on the ground, there were some bushes by the college building, and I saw the stars in the sky and I started talking to them, and it was like I didn't know that I knew them. I didn't know that they could give me information. This is the first time I realized, you um, like I think prior to 1969, I was talking to the stars. But as I was growing up in more and more 3D, contained, I just I didn't know that I knew how to do that. And so it was like there was like this sense of homecoming as I was talking to these stars. And what they told me is, yeah, you really don't want to be a director because that's telling people what to do. And that does not work, even though you know a lot of people that do that. You want to be an actress, and get an MFA and then still teach drama and be an actress because you want people to see all of this emotionality and all of this life of a character that moves through the play and develops and there's an inevitability to it, and you want to show people that with your own being, with the soul that you are within you. And I went, oh, okay, cool. So I ended up actually teaching middle school and high school drama instead of college drama, but I actually made more money, and I actually have a what do they call that? A retirement account, which is why I didn't choose to be a meditation teacher back in the day. Of course, I am now. So there you go. So then the next one in this series, so that's like 69, 87, 2006. Um, I was done teaching and I wanted to work in a library, and I thought, okay, I'm going to volunteer to do storytelling at the library down the street. So I had a conversation with the branch manager who asked me a question when she found out I was an actress. Okay. She asked me if there are any literary figures who I portray. I had not even considered that question until she asked it. But when she asked it, I knew the answer, and the answer was yes, Emily Dickinson. And she said, okay. And we set a date for me to be Emily Dickinson in the library on that date. And I created an entire, you know, performance, and I was reading poems and I was saying different things and I was running in saying, oh my gosh, look, I found a book of mine published. No poems, only 7 poems of mine were published in my lifetime, and there's over 1,700 poems in this book. So, and it was quite dynamic and people liked it, but it set off the beginning of what later became 3 years of doing a play reading of Emily Dickinson's life and work. And I was her. I would connect with her before I walked out on stage, and people would applaud because they knew I was Emily Dickinson. They knew me as, most of them knew me as Renee Varnadore or Renee Simino or Renee somebody, and they saw Emily Dickinson walk out on the stage. And so she was with me. She was with me preparing, and she was with me on stage. So, and I learned to channel, and I learned how to find again that heart within me, that soulful place within, because all of her poems were very spiritual and written from within her own being. And she wrote them in a specific way so that that would come through. And she wrote about her life experience, and she wrote about her understanding because she had this really brilliant heart-based understanding. And I think what a lot of people love about Emily Dickinson, and that's what I needed to reclaim after years of hearing of trying to be all five 3D with everybody and having a hard time of it. So we've got that was happening in June of 2006. So that came through with the North Node. That piece of knowing came in with the North Node. And you see January 2025, we're in January 25. What did I recently do? Well, lucky for you, it's on YouTube, it's on this channel, and you can watch it. I presented um, a whole performance on the North Node going into from 0 degrees Aries into 29 degrees Pisces. I had this whole thing with the Alpha and Omega points and all these things with Alcyon and I took people on a journey to the star Shiad, as I mentioned. So it was just very interesting that all of these spirals can move through all of these spirals. Okay, so what is happening here? We've got 1959 over here, but what is happening? Come in. What is happening here? Okay, so now we're looking at the south node. So right now the south node is on Virgo. It's 29 degrees Virgo, okay? And so that is the release point, whereas the north node is the growth towards point, the point we're growing towards. What did this is the brilliant question my astrologer asked. What did you have to release in order to pick up all of that North Node knowledge that I just told you about? In fact, I don't think I even read the last one. I that it is about, for me, all of these dates are a sequence and a process where I have learned to embody the creative visualization process. This thing nobody understood what I was talking about when I was a child is now monetized by other people. So it's why not? Why not? Okay, I'm giving the class for free, and then if people are interested, I might do at 8 weeks charging money. But I'm moving to Mexico City soon, so unless there's 10 people that say, yes, here, I want this, it may not happen. So I use this process when I teach because I offer ceremonies and guided meditations, right? And so all this channeling from star beings and angels and literary figures is coming through, right? So, and these beings are unconditionally loving, and so they're opening our hearts. And this activates and catalyzes other people, which is like amazing. Who would have thought? I never would have guessed. And opening into helping them open into their own learning processes. And you can say that one of the things I did not learn is how to, spell check in Canva, because this is processes. As they open their hearts into multidimensionality. So that one. But then South Node is, I was 2 years old in 1959, and we had just bought a house. We were in an apartment and we had just bought a house. So I had to release from that place, okay, where I had become conscious and started making choices and started deciding, yeah, okay, I'm going to stand up. I'm going to walk over here. I'm going to do this. Yeah, I'm going to follow. I don't have a pattern I'm walking in with. I'm going to, take after my mom. I'm going to pay attention to her pattern. Of course, she's an actress and a director. But more importantly, she is a person who who is loved by hundreds and hundreds of people that she coached and directed throughout her lifetime as an actor director. So we I learned to release from places. That was the first attachment. That wasn't too hard because the house we moved into had a great backyard. In fact, my brother still lives in that house. So, and then detaching from romantic partners, that was going on in 1978 when I was at UC Santa Cruz getting a BA in creative writing. Like, wow, that was the whole thing. But I didn't learn a whole lot about poetry. I ended up learning that later because I really needed to release from this obsession that I had with the romantic partner that I had at the time. And I didn't know how to break up with him. And I ended up, people thought we were still together when neither one of us thought we were together. And it was kind of strange. But I learned finally, it took a while, but I finally figured that one out, how to break up with a romantic partner. Um, it would have been nice if I had learned to pick out how to pick out a really good partner. That didn't happen until just before I met my husband, current husband. So, and then careers, I was trying to learn how to let go of careers in my career as a teacher in 1997, because I didn't want to be teaching in English and drama anymore. I wanted to be teaching yoga and meditation and all of that, but I didn't because this was just before the big boom where now there's a yoga studio on every corner and there's yoga trainings in every major city. And I would have had to drive 4 hours and stay overnight for months to get a yoga teacher training back in that time. So that was interesting. But I finally learned how to, I didn't release from that career when No Child Came Behind, Left Behind came through, which was very left-brained, and we're going to teach grammar and punctuation, which is not what I wanted to teach, which is why I was wanting to leave English because I love it. I love the novels. I love the poetry. I love teaching those units, but I just couldn't teach under that system. It just wasn't me. Not that it was a bad system, it just wasn't for me. So it took me a long time not to be upset that all of that happened and ruined my future as a teacher and blah 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 blah. So it was just like, okay, I had a career and I had to let that go. So that was a hard one. It took a long time, took longer than I kind of got pushed out, took longer than I thought to actually let that go because I could have let it go in 1997 and spared myself a lot of suffering. And then there was also in 1997, I jumped into this new religion and I was all gung ho and I was going to be a minister and blah, blah, blah. Had to let all of that go too. And it in 19 in 2015, I was doing years of Emily Dickinson. Those were part of my 3 years of doing Emily Dickinson, the 2015, 16, 17. So that was huge. But also at the same time, I was learning that I had this limiting belief that I am the sick one. And so I've been sick in many different ways throughout my life. I had physical sick, mental sick, emotional sick, spiritual sick, whatever, and had depression for a while, anxiety for a while. It all felt different. And I was on, I had tons of diagnoses and it just clicked when I started taking energetic healing classes that I could actually heal this limiting belief that I am the sick one and that I have to continue spiraling through all of these illnesses. And when I finally that one finally clicked in 2015, I started doing the healing classes. Then 2016 and 2017 and 2018, I got certified in 3 different healing modalities, and we moved to Mexico. And the ocean is very healing. And my doctors basically, I showed up. They had prescribed walk on the beach. I walked on the beach and I showed up to the doctor and they said, "You're cured. You're cured. You're not depressed anymore. You're not anxious anymore." So, and I was completely off of all of the prescription medication. Now, this is not for you if you are on psych meds. This is not your excuse to get off your meds. No, no, go and talk to your psychiatrist. That's what I did. I went through the whole process. We got off. I was on 6 different meds. We got off of them med by med. So I do not recommend anybody stopping their medication because it can get very bad. You think it's bad now? Just wait. You think you're okay now? Just wait. So I did a lot of work to be able to wean myself off of those meds, including meditation. So, but I was able to step out of this limiting belief that I am the sick one because I had cycling periodic depression and it wasn't even seasonal. And I don't have that anymore. I haven't been depressed really since 2015. So that's a huge, huge victory. So this is about releasing South Node releases. We can release things like that have been spirals, just as we can also learn from the spirals that are drawing us towards our growth. So let me show you this next one coming up where all of the dates are here. So we can see there's me as 2 releasing attachment to the apartment we were in. Here's where I realized that I could follow my creative guidance. And my teacher actually then thought of me as like an artist. And I was put in this art class, special art class, this gate art class with the smart kids. So that was interesting. So I wasn't considered smart at that time because I was dyslexic and I couldn't read blocks of text, but one of the other sick kid things. But here is and then the next one I was releasing romantic partners, and then this one I was opening into my intuition and tarot cards and all of that stuff, and then talking to the stars and realizing, oh yeah, I can just I can work as an actress instead of a director. And then this one was the release of a career as an English teacher. I was making good money because I had a master's degree. Teachers don't make much unless they have a master's degree, and they live in California. But what can I tell you? Um, but it's hard to own a house in California, so whatever. But here in June 2006, I just knew it was Emily Dickinson, and it became something that I did in 2006, and it became something that I did for 3 years in 2015, and then also realizing taking all of these energy medicine classes and growing towards all of all of that, releasing this limiting belief that I am the sick one, opened those doors, or getting rid of the idea that I knew how to write a poem and I knew what Emily Dickinson was trying to say. I developed enough humility to just get out of the way and say, okay, Emily, what do you mean here in this poem? And I was writing in my subtext journal, and she just started writing, and she wrote for 3 pages. And I was totally aware of what she was writing through me. And I just went, oh, okay, this makes so much sense. And, that's part of how I was able to do a really successful run of a show 3 different times over 3 different years. And then this one, having let go of the whole sick one idea, I've been able to teach live archangel classes where I gave people a structure. um, okay, that the archangels come in the seven directions. So there's a lot of beings that you can bring in a structure surrounding you, and like the seven directions. And then I expanded that. I have a song for the seven directions of singing in archangels that just came through. And then I have all of this 12 archangels structure that comes through with sacred geometry. And one of my students told me that the flower divas come in for her on that structure that we built when I was teaching that archangel class. But more specifically, on the date of this North Node, I was presenting with the Quantum Soul Guidance Galactic Astrology Summit with 30 of my colleagues and that brilliant mentor teacher I was telling you about with the 0 degrees Aries placement that understands and our origin stories is larger than we think. It's not just on the earth. She was doing past life regressions that are not just on the earth, but they're also, her clients were going to different star systems. And so she was noting and doing research on every single client, seeing where they're saying that they're what they're seeing and where they are. And she can tell just by looking at you, what are prominent star placements in your chart. So she's not doing the readings anymore, though we are. So, pick one of us if you're curious and interested in all of that. So I'm going to tell you about this class that I want to be teaching, that is happening on, here it is. It is and it's called Open the Door to Your Multidimensionality with Galactic Astrology. It's totally free. Um, you it's going to be at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. It's 90 minutes. It's live on Zoom. You can ask questions in the chat. I stop periodically to see if there's any questions. And then we're going to do a meditation. I told you I'm really good at that. So we're going to do a meditation to the fifth dimension inside the eye of the heart. And so bring a journal so you can write down what you saw there, because sometimes we forget because it's in a different dimension we're not sure of. And so we're going to key in so that we know where we are and we know where we're traveling to. And we're going to come back to 3D, and we're going to figure out what it is from this dimension that we got that we're going to start doing in our daily life to bring more of that energy in so that we have choices about what dimension we're going to be in. And this is important for the planet. If you look around, if more people were actually living from their heart, don't you think this would be a better planet? If people were thinking about who they were going to serve, not who they were going to exploit or who they were going to get money from or who they were going to have power over. None of that nonsense, all that silly ego-driven nonsense that many of us grew up watching on TV. So we're bringing a journal. We're going to drink water. We're going to drink in our own intentions, the things we want to bring into our daily life that are going to help us. If you can't make it live, you can always watch the replay. So this is the little, I'm going to stop sharing now and just let you know that, yeah, come. I want to hear what you get in the meditation. I want to hear what you get when you go inside the deepest within part of you. I want to see what that little visionary space in there, in that heart within you, is opening to. Because when everybody works and makes intentions from what is inside them from within and creating from within their own hearts, we're going to be living in a different world. So I hope you join me. If you're curious at all, please join me. And even if you can't be there on the date, put in the show notes, there is how to get invited, how to get the Zoom link to the thing, right? So the email is hello@reneevarnadore.com, and I will put you on my email list. You can unsubscribe anytime. You may decide after this class, either live or the replay, that you don't want to follow my new moon ceremonies or any of my other classes, and that's fine. But so you can unsubscribe at any time. But if you like them, I'm going to be asking people if they want more and what they want more of. So you put your 2 cents in. So that's hello@reneevarnadore.com. See the link in the show notes, and also see the link to some of my other videos that I was talking about here today with you. So thank you so much for listening. And so when you're listening to astrology, this is a takeaway I hope you have. And astrologers tell you, okay, yeah, we're in Mars retrograde, and the last time Mars was retrograde in Cancer was in blah blah blah, and then this date, and in this date, and they give you 3 dates. If they're giving you more than 1, 2 dates in for Mars in Cancer cycles, or Jupiter in Gemini cycles, or Uranus in Gemini cycles, which we're going to be having in June, then you're going to be able to see, okay, um, something like what I was seeing on the spiral. Oh, I was developing my visionary capacity. Oh, I was developing my creative visionary capacity. Oh, okay. Oh, I was creative, but I was also visioning, and I was also channeling. Okay, all of that was coming through on the North Node, on the Pisces moon, which is where my chart is pointing to. I'm living it. I'm living it. It's amazing. If you want to know if you're living it too, you can book a session with me. I'll put that in the show notes too. And don't get scared off by the high price every once in a while. If you're on my email list, you're going to find out when I give out discounts. So stay tuned. Stay tuned if it's too expensive for you right now. Okay.